this is Chava from Tower of Babel and Ravenlord. You're listening to Metal Therapy. Yeah, we have two records made with Ravenlord. One that was a few years back, and the second one, the follow-up, that just came out last December. The Tower of Babel is an entirely different product or project. It contains also Joe Stump on the guitars, while the Ravenlord has George Karafotis on the rhythm guitars, and it makes a little bit of a difference in musical style. While Ravenlord is more like, like a power metal thing, and Tower of Babel is more like a classic hard rock type of record, like a vintage metal type thing. So they're somewhat different in vibe, and although some of the musicians are sharing the records, but it's still not the same feel. Well, on the Tower of Babel, we have Mark Cross, great drummer from Germany. Well, he's actually Germany, UK. He's half-half. He's a great drummer, excellent play on this record. He's been with Metallium. He played for Halloween, Firewind. Some of the Greek people definitely know him from Firewind days. And then we have Nick Angileri. He played for Yorn and he plays for Exorcism. And we have Mysteria. He is a Italian keyboard virtuoso and is doing an excellent job on adding the texture and everything. Also does Nick too. And of course, head of the show is Joe Stump's work on the guitar, and me, Chava Zvekan, on the vocals. While on the Ravenlord we have two guitar players, also Joe Stump doing the lead guitars, and George Karafotis from Thessaloniki, Greek guy, playing the rhythm. While we had on the drums, we had God, I don't even I'm making so many records I don't even know what the lineup was. On the bass, I had Lucio Manca from Italy, and Mysteria was also doing some keyboards, and Fab Jablonski, a Brazilian guy who did a lot of keyboard work as well. So I had, split the work on the keyboards with two guys. The Ravenlord is like a follow-up, and it's been in the cooking and the making for quite some time, and it was difficult to make actually, because people were coming and going, and the challenge was to actually really finish the album. And I'm really happy that it finally was happening, because it was really a good record, and a lot of people were waiting for the record, so I finished it. While the Tower of Babel, I don't want to jump from one product to the other, it's kind of getting confusing, but the Tower of Babel is also in the making for quite some time. It kind of evolved from the Ravenlord. We worked some time on these records, and that it was kind of difficult to finish them up, because we had a lot of lineup changes, and had to do it from scratch again, all over again. But I knew that the fans wanted it, and so I just pieced it together as good as possible and finished it up. And sometimes we had to redo the work quite often, which almost that's why it took so long. We had to re-record a few times actually, the guitars and drums. We had to re-record, so every time we would re-record the drums, of course then we need to re-record the bass again and start from scratch again. So I went there great lengths to have a great record that fits in the play and in the style. And I'm making all these records with heart, and not just for me, the product has to have quality, and I cannot just make something that I'm not happy with. And what I was saying before we got disconnected was that during the first Ravenlord era, I requested guitar snippets or guitar songs for the follow-up, and Joe was writing a lot of cool songs, and George was writing a lot of cool songs, but they could not be merged. And here is what happened was, out of this kind of dilemma that the two would not fit together, because one was very power metal type and the other one was more neoclassical, more classic hard rock. So I said, okay, this is what we will do. We will, for this product, for the Ravenlord, we will use George Karakotis's work and add more songs to it. And for the Tower of Babel, we will use Joe's work and continue writing in the same veins to fill it up more, making more songs. And that's how we created the Tower of Babel. And actually, in the beginning, we had a rainbow bass player. I don't know if a lot of people still know this. We had Craig Gruber on the bass. He's supposed to play the bass on this, and that's why we wanted to recreate that rainbow feel. But unfortunately, he died a couple years back already, and in cancer, and we had to take another bass player. So we had to abandon that work. Well, actually, it never really came to some recording. But it was a very sad event. So some of the songs we've dedicated to Craig Gruber, because he wanted to be in this band and he liked it, and he liked my vocals and my personality, and we got along really good. So that's the story basically of these two products. They've been split up by the two guitar players, and we basically made two records out of one pot of songs from the guitar players. The influences of music is it varies. Everybody has their influences, and there's many bands, and you can hear it. But what we did with the Tower was we tried to recreate a specific feel. We tried to recreate the 70s or 80s feel of, you see, Joe Stump is a very big fan of Richie Blackmore and other guitar players, Yngwie Malmsteen and other, and he's trying to influence his work, while I'm very influenced by Dio and Ian Gillan and Rob Halford, and I'm trying to when I go at this product, I cannot sing like Rob Halford or something. Then I'll just try to sing like Dio-ish and give it that edge and give it that timbre, and I think it worked out really good. And the same with Mysteria. They can play all kinds of stuff and all kinds of schools. And what's great about this project is, for instance, Mark Cross, he digged up the old material. He told me how he investigated prior to recording. He listened to some Bobby Rondinelli, some Cozy Powell, and to all that stuff, so he can recreate that feel, delivering the record what the record needs. And I think that from the producer side, I think that's really, really great that these musicians are this advanced to think further and say, okay, I can see where this is heading. So, okay, let me just, and they didn't hear any vocals. So that's the thing. They didn't hear any vocals. Once you hear vocals, it's already much easier to adapt for a musician. But they didn't. I think they heard maybe one or two songs. Maybe, I'm not sure. So they just did it by feel. And that is really, really, really good. Because I'm the singer and I need the foundation. And it has to be all neat and perfect for my inspiration to work. So of course, You know, there's specific tones and specific instruments that were used, like a Hammond, like drum sounds, particular sounds that make it a complete album. You cannot mix apples with oranges, so you just have to be in the base of things. The Ravenlord albums, the first one was Descent to the Underworld, and the second one was Down the Wasteland, which came out last December. And the Tower of Babel is it's called Lake of Fire is the title of the album. It just came out last month on the 20th. For the Ravenlord, there will be no shows currently because you just have to remember I also have Exorcism, which is my main band, if you want. And also there I'm planning a record this year. We just released a single and the video, but also there we will, and that's usually my touring band or band that I go out. And Ravenlord is more like just a project, if you want it like that way. But on the Tower of Babel side, we're planning, as we speak, we're planning a tour, maybe November, December. We're planning on some tours and perhaps some festivals for next year. The future plans, I definitely want to make another Ravenlord, also with George. But remember that George is also playing for Exorcism now. So he's quite busy with a lot of bands that I'm involved with. So I don't want to give him too much work. But we're touring mainly with Exorcism, so he will be probably doing that. And the Ravenlord is right now in the back burner for at least a year or two. We have to finish this Exorcism first before anything, you know. The songs are ready to go. It's just a matter of recording them and finishing it up. Some parts is already recorded. The drums played by his brother, Vagelis Karafotis. I got both brothers in the band for Exorcism, so half of the band is Greek, and that I want to finish first before I do anything else. Now on the Tower of Babel, it just came out, so I guess we have to see how it sells, how it's been liked by the people, how it performs. Then we want to play some shows. Let's see how people like it when we perform these things live, and then we'll take it from there. There will be probably another follow-up record. Knowing Joe, he's a hard-working guy. He always comes up with some cool stuff, and I'm probably gonna be singing on the second one as well. It's just very recent, so it's difficult to speak about the next record when you just released one like a month ago, you know, but it should be. The creation for Ravenlord is a very long story. The name was found by an ex-manager of mine. He found this. I never really thought it was a good name. Actually, I was like, in the beginning I was like, what is a Ravenlord anyway? And he's like, well, we're just gonna take this one. And I said, you know, whatever. I'll deliver the music and you just do the rest. And we kept Ravenlord for the recognition, for the name's of sake. Then the music is always a collaboration of the musicians, but of course they have to adapt to my ideas and vocalize, so it makes all sense. So it's like usually a 50-50 thing where they adapt to the chord progressions that I want, or some stuff that I don't like, and then they have to redo it and change the riff. Usually the problems arise with where they think it's a verse and I think it's a chorus and something like that, and they hear it different, and then we swap things around. But of course that would mean for the guitar player to completely change the song around, and then for them it's kind of weird, or sometimes they don't care. And then at the end, they will realize, now I understand. Yeah, this makes a lot of sense. Now I see where you're coming from. Because I believe only a singer knows how the song really should sound like, or it's about him, what he wants to sing, and what kind of ideas he basically has. And he already knows when he hears the riff, the guitar riff, that this is maybe a verse or maybe a pre-chorus or whatever, or if it fits or not, you know. And on the Tower of Babel, that was kind of challenging, because Joe was very set on a lot of things. He went ahead and kind of re-recorded. He went ahead and recorded songs from A to Z, and everybody else had to kind of follow up on the songs, and we took it from the guitar side. Basically, the drummer recorded on the guitars, because the guitars were already there. And then at the end, the songs were very, very long, because Joe comes from a instrumental type of work, and I guess he did work with me on The Exorcism, but when he starts writing, then he tends to write it very long, and we had to shorten some of the stuff, even the solos and the outros, because every song was like 6 to 7 minutes, and I'm like, they're great songs, but they're very long. We will not be able to fit them on a CD like this. So we have to chop them and make them shorter. Sometimes some choruses being too repetitive and too long. So we chopped them, shortened them, and made nice little songs out of it. But again, also it's a collaboration of everybody, you know. Everybody gives their feel and touch. It's like a painting with 5 painters, you know. You cannot say it's this and this guy's work. It would be foolish. But you can say that 2 people produced the album, you know. 2 people had the idea, and there has to be 1 or 2 producers holding the whole thing together. And that was me and Joe. You know, there has to be somebody or an initiator who has the idea to make a record or to make a band, and to invest the time and the money into the recordings. And those are the producers of the record, and those are Joe. And for the Tower of Babel was Joe and me, and for the Ravenlord it was exclusively just me. It was produced just by me. For the Ravenlord, the year was 2010, almost 7 years ago, a little over 7 years ago. I remember that because I came back from tour with Killing Machine, and then I found this manager who then wanted to have this name, and from then on we worked on this. It took some time to release the first record, and then it took even more time to release the second record. The Tower of Babel was created more or less in the middle of the production, kind of like parallel to the second record. I would say it was 2014, 2015 when Gruber joined the band. That's when we already knew that, and we actually announced it, that we will be making a record. So also that has taken some years to finish. This is Chava from Tower of Babel and Ravenlord. And you're listening to Metal Therapy.